Hello and welcome to CNN 10, the best 10 minutes in news. I'm Coy. I've got a full show for you today, but first, I'm curious, how many of you out there have an iPhone? Did you know that more than 2 billion have been sold since the first iPhone was released? Apple has a solid grip on more than 20% of the worldwide smartphone market. But just like the good old board game Monopoly, when someone collects a ton of the game pieces, it's tough to go unnoticed. And the Department of Justice is definitely taking notice of Apple and its business practices. The DOJ filed a lawsuit last week alongside more than a dozen states against the tech giant. They're accusing the company of illegally monopolizing the smartphone market and violating federal antitrust laws. CNN's Brian Todd breaks down this case for us with a look at the iconic brand's unique strategies, which may be weeding out its competitors.
It's one of the most iconic, powerful brands in the world, now worth more than $2.5 trillion. It's sold more than 1 billion iPhones worldwide. And Apple's ability to maintain that hold on the marketplace has put it squarely in the crosshairs of the U.S. Justice Department. Today, Justice filing a sweeping antitrust lawsuit against Apple, accusing the tech giant of illegally monopolizing the smartphone market.
For consumers, that has meant fewer choices, higher prices and fees, lower quality smartphones, apps, and accessories, and less innovation from Apple and its competitors.
At the heart of the antitrust suit, the allegation that Apple has set up its own closed ecosystem that limits Apple users to only using Apple products. That's also known as the walled garden. At the center of the walled garden, the iPhone.
And that's really, the centerpiece of Apple's empire. It's what has made it such a dominant company for so long.
One example of unfair practices alleged by the Justice Department, that Apple degrades the texts that iPhones receive from Android phones, those green texts iPhones get from non-iPhones.
The Justice Department says that messages that are sent between iPhones are more secure because they're encrypted. But when you're messaging with a non-iPhone user, those messages are not encrypted and thus less secure.
Also a difference in picture quality. A picture sent from an Android to an iPhone could be of lesser quality?
Yeah, according to the Justice Department, when those messages or images get exchanged, the quality is less, images might look grainier, videos might look grainier.
Another example of what the Justice Department calls Apple's, quote, exclusionary conduct. These days, good luck trying to use anything but Apple Pay if you're using your phone at the checkout counter.
Apple has blocked third-party developers from creating competing digital wallets on the iPhone that use what is known as tap-to-pay functionality.
And Justice says Apple Watches only work well with iPhones, forcing owners to buy nothing but Apple phones. The Justice Department says unlocking more competition for Apple products will lead to more innovation and lower prices for consumers.
On the other hand, Apple says, look, if the Justice Department gets its way, then that effectively makes Apple devices much more like Android devices, and consumers don't want that.
Our next story takes us to Hong Kong, a unique city with a complex history, which I'll try to sum up quickly, but I encourage you to take a look at this history yourself to better understand the situation happening today. Hong Kong was once controlled by the British Empire, but the city was handed over to China in 1997 under a plan known as One Country, Two Systems. This idea basically said Hong Kong would join communist China, but maintain its established capitalist economic system and democratic political system. But in recent years, that has started to change, and pretty dramatically. In 2020, China's central government passed a sweeping national security law following mass pro-democracy protests. That law dramatically broadened the power that China's communist ruling party had over the territory. Just last week, Hong Kong's legislature passed another sweeping law detailing 39 new national security crimes. Our Kristie Lu Stout is here to break it all down for us.
Article 23 is Hong Kong's controversial new homegrown security legislation. It includes a range of new national security crimes, including treason, espionage, external interference, and disclosure of state secrets.
It carries sentences of 10 years for crimes linked to state secrets and sedition, 20 years for espionage, and up to life in prison for treason, insurrection, sabotage, and mutiny. Officials point out that many Western countries have similar legislation and say it will fill loopholes in the sweeping national security law imposed by Beijing in 2020 after mass anti-government protests.
we still have to watch out for potential sabotage, undercurrents that try to create troubles.
In 2003, Article 23 was shelved after an attempt to enact it drew 500,000 residents onto the streets in protest. No such scenes of opposition are expected this time around. Beijing's national security crackdown has transformed Hong Kong. Dozens of political opponents have been arrested, civil society groups disbanded, and outspoken media outlets shut down. Former opposition lawmaker Emily Lau was among the protesters in 2003. She's no longer marching, but has a message for Beijing.
I just want to tell Beijing there's no need for such stern treatment. I don't think Hong Kong will go back to the turbulent past. And I think people want to look forward to a safe and peaceful and free future. We want Hong Kong to prosper. We are part of China. I've never disputed that, but we are different from the rest of China. But the difference is getting less and less, which is very sad.
Critics say the law could have deep ramifications for the city's status as a global business hub. The U.S. State Department says it is concerned by the, quote, broad and vague definitions of state secrets and external interference that could be used to eliminate dissent through the fear of arrest and detention. The Hong Kong government rejects that criticism as biased and misleading, with Security Secretary Chris Tang pointing out there is strong public support.
期間係收到 98.6% 嘅支持同埋提出正面嘅意見。
But on the streets, it's hard to tell.
Pop quiz hotshot. Why is Paris originally known as the City of Light? Architecture, romance, education, or lantern? If your answer is lanterns, keep shining bright. In an effort to reduce crime rates back in the 1600s, King Louis XIV ordered nearly 3,000 street lanterns to be illuminated in the streets of Paris, giving it the title City of Light. Today's story, getting a 10 out of 10, takes us to the City of Light, Paris, where we're illuminating an unusual race, where hundreds of Parisian restaurant waiters dash around corners and over cobblestones, all while holding trays loaded with items that they cannot drop.
This is no ordinary race. In fact, there's no running allowed. The 1.2-mile competition across Paris is exclusively for the city's waiters, according to Reuters. And there are a few more rules. You must carry a tray holding a croissant, a cup of coffee, and a glass of water for the whole route. Absolutely no water can be spilled, and you can only hold the tray with one hand.
Je m'attends pas forcément à être la première parce que j'ai pas forcément le meilleur cardio. J'espère au moins arriver avec le plateau en bon état à la ligne d'arrivée.
Some 200 waiters took part in the historic race, which was first held in 1914. But this is the first time the event has taken place since 2011 because of a lack of funding. So what's the secret to winning?
C'est l'endurance. Ouais, l'endurance, c'est ça. À la fin, t'as soif. Mais voilà, nous, dans nos métiers, on fait ça pendant 10-12 heures. L'endurance, on l'a. Tenir le plateau, on sait faire. Donc voilà.
All right, we are running out of time here, but we can't leave without some special recognition and shout outs. We are sending a shout out to the Bulldogs at Chamblee Middle School in Chamblee, Georgia. Rise up. We see you and we appreciate you. Also, shout out to Ralston High School in Omaha, Nebraska. Go Rams. Remember, tomorrow's hashtag Your Word Wednesday. Follow me at KoiWire on Instagram, Snapchat, TikTok. Put your unique vocabulary word in the comment section of my most recent post with the definition, your school, teacher, mascot if you'd like, and we're going to choose a winner to work into tomorrow's show. I'm Koi. I'll see you tomorrow.